Welcome to Getting Back Up, where grief meets growth.
Two men, two fathers, and one shared journey of rebuilding.
We're talking about life after cancer, love, loss, and everything no one tells you.
Well, let's get into it.
Let's get into kind of the darker side of beyond the life and the celebration we have of these women that we married and who passed away, whether our relationships were super solid in marriage or challenging, as many of our listeners and we too kind of mirror that as well.
Yeah.
I want to talk about some of the darker period that will always be in our memory, and we can help others that are listening to us. I think I learned too quickly, and we're talking about the passing of Janice and Nalani. I think I learned far too quickly that remission is temporary recovery until cancer recurrence shows back up, which is when cancer returns after a period of remission, just for those who are getting new to cancer. So I'll kind of get into some situations I think that I saw early on as this kind of happened in our family. I definitely want to hear what you have to say and what happened in your situation. But I think for me, it was the fact that Nalani was very private. Okay. That, as I mentioned, she would have these different conversations with all of her friends about their situation in their lives. But she was also very, on the other side of it, she was very private about her own situation. Right. So she was hesitant to talk to a lot of these friends about what was actually going on, because she felt, that she could deal with it, we could deal with it. And so I think particularly some of the aspects of this that our audience is probably thinking about, and something that we want to share, is preparing our children for what's going on. Because it's hard to explain to children that their mother may not be around.
Yeah, it's an impossible task that you have to do.
Yeah. And there's no script for it.
And there's no
script for it.
Yeah.
And having that kind of age-appropriate discussion for our children, using the right language. And at the time, they were 9, 11, 9, 10, going into 10 and 12.
Yeah.
Explaining all the different appointments, the chemotherapy sessions, and that she's going to be down when she comes back.
Yeah. I remember going through that. My oldest, my stepson, he was in college away at the time. And I remember having to tell him. I remember us making the decision to tell him. And it's strange because he was the oldest. He was the most difficult. It was the most difficult for us to do, was to tell him. He had lost his biological father a few years earlier. Right. So imagine like the dynamic for him of saying, and to your point, like, there's no script. Every kid is different. Like, even raising every kid is different, let alone telling every child, hey, this is the dynamic.
Raise them based on their needs.
Yeah, exactly. So it was similarly like, having to kind of figure out, like, how do we talk to Tahir? How do we make sure somebody else is around him to support him? Right. How do we tell the younger kids? Right. And what context to give them. Right. And like, how do you explain, like, when mom left this morning and she had all this energy and now she doesn't, right? What happened? Yeah. I mean, those are like, it's these, like, nobody wants to do these things. And this is the role, like, when you're a supporter, right? Or part of the supporting cast, right? Like, it's your responsibility to figure it out, because they're carrying the other burden, which is fighting for their life. Yeah. Right. But it's I don't know. I think back to those times and wonder, I think you always wonder, like, did I do it the right way? right? But I mean, you have to,
Yeah.
in those moments, you have to kind of like talk to everybody,
Yeah.
right? Not just the kids. You calling the aunts, the cousins, the siblings, right?
And that's tough for somebody who is very private,
Right.
who it's a family matter.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want the attention on them. They've always focused on the others around them to then let other people know. Because remission, as I mentioned, I don't know if there actually was remission for her.
Yeah.
It was so aggressive, this uterine cancer.
Mm-hmm.
I just
How long in remission? How long between?
couple of months, to be quite honest. It was.
Yeah, I think.
She just had some challenges. Had to go back to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
She had some bleeding sitting at work.
Yeah, I think.
Just.
I think my scenario was like maybe 4 or 5 months, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Yeah.
it was tough, and just as you said, forming the team, because after remission, it's okay. What have we learned from this last time? Because it came back.
Right.
So then it was all right. Well, we're really going to have to speak to people because it's very serious.
Yeah. How did you? At what point for you did it connect that? Ooh, this might not have a great ending.
When we went, well, it's a couple of different situations actually. I think it was, well, specifically when I had started therapy myself. And I think Nalani encouraged me to do that because the girls were in therapy. And I think it was getting close to the time that she was pretty sick and it was very clear that it was spreading.
Okay.
I remember a couple of conversations where Nolani's in the bed and she's realizing she's really super duper sick and she wants to put things in motion for the girls and everything else. I remember we contacted a friend of ours who recommended us to a therapist.
Gotcha.
And so I remember this is all through COVID too, man, which,
Oh yeah. Man. Yeah.
so everything's different.
Yeah.
So I remember the friend who put us in touch with this therapist, talked to this therapist and let her know of the situation. So we kind of interviewed the therapist essentially. And I remember that Nalani, we got on the phone with the therapist and Nalani kind of did it wasn't as serious the way she mentioned our situation to the therapist. It was more, oh, the girls are going through things now at their age and whatever. And I'm like, what? Inside, I didn't say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember getting off that call and I said, why didn't you tell her? Because now the cancer was back.
Right. Right.
Why didn't you let the therapist know what's going on and what these girls may encounter? And I think it was this mark or indication she didn't want to admit how serious and terminal this was. That was the first time.
Okay.
So I remember having to call back the therapist and go, let me tell you what's really going on.
Wow. Okay.
And so I had to lay it all out about this is where we are. We're hoping for the best. We're planning for the worst.
Right.
And I said as much to Nalani in that conversation prior to me calling the therapist.
Yeah.
Because I realized Jamal was on me now.
Yeah.
It's all on me.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the one who's left here to work through all this.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's what happened. And we had an argument.
So it's interesting. So I feel like arguments are always like a major trigger because I think it's like the emotional peak, of fear.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let me also say this too, along these same lines, something that stuck with me that you said, that Janice said to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do
it different.
Speak about that.
Yeah. Do it different.
Yeah.
And it was so it was in her last months of her life, and we were having this conversation, and we were sitting on the bed watching TV, and she's half drugged up on OxyContin, oxycodone, whatever, and she's like, I want you to move forward. I want you to like find somebody to. And I'm like, man, like I'm not even trying to hear that. Like we getting through this, right? We're gonna get through this battle. And she's like, no, seriously, I'm serious. Like I'm okay with it, and it's not the conversation I want to have.
Yeah.
It's not the conversation. It's not the thing I want to think about.
Right.
Right. It's her.
Is that giving up? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, who's giving up? Am I giving up? Right. Are you giving up? Like, and admittedly, obviously, it's her going through this. So she reached the point of realizing her battle had an end game, had an end date. Right. Even if she didn't know when, in her head, she processed it already.
Yeah.
And I had started that process, but at that point, I'm like, I don't want to have this conversation.
You can't say it out loud.
Yeah,
you almost can't say it out loud.
No, I'm not moving. No, moving forward. We're not even talking about that. But she did say it was funny. Like she's talking and she's trying to push the conversation. I'm trying to get out of it, and she's not giving up. And that was her, right? All the time. I'm not giving up. And she's like, no, but I want you to. But you have to do it differently. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She says, just do it differently. Do it differently than we did it. And I'm like, okay, all right, sure. And I brush it. I kind of like, yes, okay, yes. Yeah. Get out the conversation. It says very uncomfortable. Right. I don't want to talk about you not being here. Yeah. Right. Because we got marriage that we have. This taught me that there was a whole other level to the vow. Right. So I'm like, nah, we in it. And I know we might have been talking about divorce before you got diagnosed, but nah, we fighting through this now.
Did you think you could be different in that moment because getting through this, maybe she survived, you will have come out different for her.
Yeah.
And not for who that
I
next
thought
person
so.
was.
I mean, I thought I believe that when we win this battle, we will be different. Right. I believe that. Right. But fast forward to when she passed and when I was ready to date and move forward, there was a part of me like that stuck with me. Like it stuck with me. Like I actually remember looking back at all of my okay, what would the woman who I dated in the past, or the typical people who I would, typically lean toward. And I kind of shunned it. Like I kind of remember, I kind of retained that subconsciously, I think, that idea of doing it differently. Right. I wasn't like, I'm not going to, date this type of woman. Or I'm not going to, but I honestly had the thought I've got to do it differently. I'm not going to, dip into the expected cast of characters. I'm not going to, be on, just do it unnaturally. But I'm also going to recognize when something felt too familiar, then it actually felt uncomfortable, right? Then it should be uncomfortable for me, right? If something feels too familiar, in how this person is that I'm dating, or then it was a part of it was just like, nah, this
could be a challenge.
This could be a challenge.
I've seen this before.
Right. Right. So I think Janice's came back 4 or 5 months after remission, right? After they ring the bell.
In quotations.
Yeah, in quotations. It was at the oncologist center where they did radiation and everything, a chemo. Like on your last day, they walk you down and you ring this loud bell, and everybody cheers, and there's balloons,
as
and
they
cake,
should,
and as they should. I mean, it was a joyful experience.
Yes.
Like, wow. And it's like, we did it. Right. And it's like, I know for me, I was like, we got the win, right? We got the W.
Yeah.
And we get to, maybe 3 months later, she's having some new occurrences of pains and discomforts and 5 months, she's starting to do tests. She's got, some pain. I remember she was started getting, she had a pain in her chest. And I was on a work trip, and they called like, hey, you got to come, she calls me. She's, I'm going to the ER. I'm having pain in my chest. They come back. They look, okay, it's spread, or it's back. They're seeing the markers again. So we get back home, and we're like, okay, go back, do the chemo, go back, do the radiation, go back, start the process over again. And I'm just like, let's start the process over again, because I'm in more like, okay, let's beat it again.
Yeah.
Right. Let's beat it again.
We got one W.
We got one. We could do two. We did this before. Let's go. Like, and I sensed an anger in her, like a tension. Right. And one day we went out to dinner, and this is over the period of a couple of weeks after we found out. And one day we go to dinner, and she's just like, why aren't your parents coming to why aren't they calling you more often? Why aren't they this? And I'm like, what? She was like, why aren't your friends? Where's this friend? And where's that one? I'm like, I talked to them. She was like, but they're not, they haven't shown up. They haven't been at the house lately. And I'm like, what? Like, for what? Like, we got this. And she's like, no, they should be here. And I realized, like, we got into this heated argument, right? And I'm like, what is the problem? And she was like, I want to know that they're going to be here for you and the kids when I'm gone. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
You hadn't talked like that before.
No, like I'm like, what are you talking about when you're gone? Like, every conversation before that was just like, yeah, we're going to beat this thing. And how you feeling? I'm tired. So let me go get you something. And this was the first time that we got to that level of like, when I'm gone. And I'm like, what? Like, and it hit me like, I mean, we were in like a big restaurant in Texas, because we lived in Austin at the time, like, like going at it, like like the way the server came by and was like, I'm like uncomfortably walked away, like, oh my gosh, like,
I guess I won't refill the tea.
Exactly. I guess you don't want any more peanuts, right? So I'm like, in that moment that it got there, she's like, I need to know that they're gonna be here when I'm like, wow. Oh. And that was the first time it hit me, literally, like, my wife's not going to be here in a year. Like I said, I was like, my wife might not be here in a year. And from that, I think 2 days later, I was at therapy. I had never researched the type of cancer she had. So I'm talking about a year and a half of battling cancer, radiation, chemo, double mastectomy, all of this stuff. I had never researched what type it was, because I was just like, oncologist said, what we need to do to beat it. That's the only thing I cared about. So now I'm like researching it. I'm like, oh, okay. What type of trials are there for it? What are the odds? And and then I started looking at it, and I'm like, oh, survival rates. Okay. 3 to 5 years. I'm like, okay, we're at 3. Right? Like, that's when it really hit me, like, oh, you might not be doing this thing, raising a family, raising kids with this woman in the next 2 years. And that was, for me, that was the first one. Second was similarly, like 4 months later, she's like got these intense back pains, and we found out it had metastasized. It had started spread into her bones. It's like, okay, now she's in a wheelchair. Right. And it just progressively just got worse. And those are the moments where you're like, man, this thing is real. Like, this thing is insane. To say the least. And I don't know how, I still don't find words for it, because like that experience and that last year is still so vivid. Like, to see that happen to somebody,
I don't think you ever forget it.
Yeah, you don't forget it. And I think that's the part for, I think, for listeners and for people going through this, it's okay not to forget it. Because I think you have to be able to take that moment and reflect on what were you your best self? Where you give them all, right, in those moments?
Yep.
Did you give them all you could, right? But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy.
The next time I realized this was real, and the answering the question, well, why me or why us? Well, why not you? Why not us?
Yeah.
Realizing how common it is. And just going to those appointments alone, man, right? Chemotherapy, it seems like an endless parade almost. A new person you see each time you're in the office.
And it's like this strange greeting. Oh, not a strange greeting, but it's like, I don't know, it's like a club. Like,
you're saying the receptionist at the desk?
the receptionist, the new, like, they're watching, like, you're sitting next to your partner as they're going through chemo, and you see a new face, and it's kind of like, hey, nice to meet. Like, it's so weird. It's so
club you don't want to be in.
It's a club you don't want to be in.
However we are.
But you have to be.
You have to
be there.
Right.
It's the support
Accept
system.
membership.
Yeah.
Accept membership.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next time I realized, 2 other times, and I want to talk about the passing. The second time I realized, let me go back to the conversation with Nalani where we had the argument that I mentioned. When we got off the phone and I said, you didn't tell the therapist what was actually happening. And I was like, baby, you are dying. And I'm going to be here by myself with these girls. We need to have them as well-rounded as early as possible.
Wow.
And she was like, you've given up hope. I said, no. I'm hoping for the best plan for the worst. I hope we can scrap these plans.
Right.
But this is the reality now. And, it was rough, man, that conversation.
Yeah.
The next time was going back to one of the appointments. Oh, you have a appointment with a pain management specialist. Okay. I just thought that was...
I'm laughing because I'm laughing because I know. Right? Like I know what you thought it was.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Where heavy drugs, I thought it was going to be Excedrin, 800 milligrams or whatever.
Yeah.
And OxyContin or what. Oh,
Right.
okay. They talking about some drugs I had never heard of.
Yeah.
And you have to fill out this pink sheet. Do you remember the pink sheet?
Yep.
Where it has to be set by the bedside.
Yeah.
So when somebody comes.
They can see.
And so I
the
was,
protocol.
at that time it was, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't think it didn't register with Nalani.
It didn't? So
She did it. It just didn't. And then I just, oh, wow. Okay. So I have to be the realist. Yeah. There's a lot that I have to think about and diplomatically say to her or compassionately say to her.
Right.
Because these are the last moments that we're going to have.
Yeah.
But go ahead. You had a thought there.
No, I think it's so I mean I remember so we had our kind of moment. We again rushed to the hospital. They're trying to figure out where it is, where the cancer is. They've already tracked it some places, but now like the pain that she had severe pain in her sternum.
Yeah.
And they realized that it had tucked and hid behind some bones and in her chest, and that the pain just felt like her rib cage was breaking. Wow. That was basically what the pain felt like. Wow. So we go, this is the shit, right? That you realize where this is not a game and how many humans are involved with this process. Her oncologist.
How common it is.
Her oncologist comes in. And I loved her oncologist. Short little white woman, always wore these badass heels. Like drove like a Jaguar coupe, like, but she was very straightforward and we appreciated it. So she came in, it's like nighttime. She comes in and to see Janice, and she walks over and holds her hand. And Janice looks up at her and grabs her hand, and her oncologist breaks down and starts crying.
Wow. Because she's seen it all, too.
She's seen it all.
Yeah.
And at that point, I knew for a fact.
Yeah.
like we're counting now, right? And like this was months after Janice and I had that argument, you know, at the steakhouse, right? But now it's like, okay, the oncologist is crying. It's real. So
and they're supposed to be clinical as
right.
best they possibly can
right.
be.
And I'm not slighting her for cry because it's humans, right? We're humans, and it also showed me how passionate she was and how much she cared about Janice. This wasn't just the job. I'm not just writing these scripts.
She's not another chart.
I'm not just another. Yeah, she's not just another chart. And so she leaves the She talks to Janice, and she walks out of the room, and I walk over to Janice, and I'm like, I'll be right back. And I walk up, you know, call the oncologist, and I'm stop her in the hallway, and I'm like, how much time do we have? And she was like, I can't give you a time. And I'm like, I need a time. And she was just like 6 to 9 months, maybe 3 to 6. And at that point I was like that was like, wow. Like that was a little bit of a sigh of relief in a weird way, because watching Janice go through so much pain over that period of time was extremely difficult. Not for me personally, but extremely difficult to see somebody endure that much pain, right? And it was almost a strange sigh of relief to know that she wouldn't be suffering like this more than she needs to. And she said it was similar. It was just like, so we're going to get some pain management in the house. I've already called it. You know, somebody's going to come talk to you about, you know, having, so we had hospice in the home.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. But it even though I had this sigh of relief, it didn't resonate yet. It was kind of like,
but she's still there.
Because she's still there.
Right.
And then I've got this one thing of like, okay. But then I've got this other thing of like, well, pain management. And I'd never experienced that. I've never seen what that is. I've heard about it.
No.
I've heard, oh, this person was on hospice, and okay, that's just like care, long-term care. Yeah. It's totally different. Right. But yeah, it's, I don't know. That was my kind of last, I won't say last experience, because then we were home after that. That was the last time we were in a hospital. Thank you for joining us on Getting Back Up, Finding Life After Death. If something in today's episode spoke to you, pass it on, because somebody out there needs to hear this.
For sure. We're on all the social mausoleums, so follow us on Instagram, Threads, TikTok. Mostly it will be in the form of Get Back Up Podcast.
And be sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast.
And remember, getting knocked down is part of life.
But getting back up, that's how we live.
We'll see y'all next time.